Every country, the government plays a crucial role in the economy, managing everything from education to infrastructure, healthcare to defense. But to fund these essential services, governments often borrow money. How they do this and the effects of their borrowing are fundamental to the economic health of a nation. Welcome to the world of budget deficits and national debt. In this video, we'll explore how governments borrow money, why deficits occur, and the long term effects of national debt. A budget deficit happens when the government's spending exceeds its income, essentially, when the bills come in higher than the tax revenue coming in, whether due to increased spending on public services or a decrease in tax revenues. A budget deficit can arise in any country. It's not necessarily a sign of economic trouble, but how long can it persist and how it's managed can affect a national financial stability. Governments often run budget deficits during the times of crisis, like recessions or wars, when spending increases to support recovery efforts or defense needs. When a government runs budget deficit, it borrows money to cover the gap. This borrowing results in national debt. Over time, national debt can grow as governments continue to borrow year after year. National debt is the total amount of money a government owes. It's built up from annual deficits and, in some cases, to finance long term investments. The key question is how much debt is too much? Governments often borrow money by issuing bonds, which are essentially loans from investors or other governments or institutions. These bonds pay interest, and when they mature, the government must pay the principal. Governments borrow for many reasons to fund infrastructure projects, stimulate economic growth, or provide essential services when revenues are insufficient. Borrowing allows governments to invest in the future while managing short term financial gaps. For example, building highways, schools, hospitals can boost long term economic productivity, but it often requires borrowing, especially when the economy isn't generating enough revenue to cover all expenses. National debt isn't inherently bad, but it must be managed carefully. The debt to GDP ratio is an important indicator of a country's financial health. It measures the national debt compared to the country's economic output. If a country's debt grows faster than its economy, the debt burden becomes heavier. This could lead to a higher interest in payments and may limit the government's ability to invest in future growth. High national debt can also raise interest rates, making it more expensive for businesses and individuals to borrow, potentially slowing down economic growth. Borrowing can stimulate economic growth, especially in times of recession. By investing in infrastructure and public services, governments can create jobs and boost economic productivity. But too much borrowing, especially if it becomes unsustainable, can lead to negative outcomes. Debt servicing costs rise, and countries may face challenges attracting investment. Some argue that high national debt can lead to inflation, austerity measures, or even default, where a government is unable to pay back its loans. Governments can take actions to manage their debt by implementing fiscal policies like increasing taxes, cutting spending, or restructuring existing debt. These policies aim to ensure that the borrowing doesn't reach unsustainable levels. These decisions often require careful balancing. While cutting spending can reduce debt, it may also lead to job losses or reduced services, making it a difficult choice for policymakers. The future of national debt will be shaped by global economic conditions, democratic changes, and government policies. As economies evolve, the way countries manage their debt will continue to impact their economic stability. Will nations embrace their new technology to reduce debt? Will fiscal policies shift to focus on sustainability? The answers to these questions will shape the future of global economies. Managing national debt requires international cooperation, smart policies, and forward thinking strategies to ensure a stable, sustainable economic future. From national debt to fiscal policies, the choices governments make about borrowing affect everyone. The way countries manage their finances influences jobs, interest rates, and even the cost of living. By understanding how governments borrow money and manage debt, we can better navigate the complexities of global economics and make informed decisions about our future. We'll dive deeper into the world of government borrowing and see how it affects global economy and your everyday decisions.